So you may get asked the question of what are some of your strengths and weaknesses. Even if you don't get asked this question, you're still going to want to have some things planned out that you'll talk about, and how, basically how you're going to talk about your strengths and how you're going to talk about your weaknesses and which ones you're going to choose to use regardless, because it's still your job to get in the strengths somewhere in your interview answers. The weaknesses, no, but you'll still want to have these planned out just in case something comes up and you'll have to talk about them. So when it comes to talking about strengths and weaknesses, if you're asked this specific question, always give more strengths than weaknesses, and always include an example for each of your strengths of you demonstrating that strength. That will allow the employer to basically envision you using that strength in their place of work, and that gets them more excited about you, and it basically proves that what you're saying about yourself is true. If you were to just list off strengths without giving an example, it's not as believable and it doesn't really stick with the employer. When it comes to talking about your weaknesses, we say to give less weaknesses. So we usually say give 3 strengths and 1 weakness. And then you want to pick a weakness that is not going to be debilitating for that job. And you want to give your solution to that weakness. You don't want to give an example of you using it, because we don't want them envisioning you using your weaknesses there. We just want them to think that you're mature enough to know what your weaknesses are and the solutions to your weaknesses. So this is kind of how I would lay it out. I would actually probably get at least 6 strengths and 3 weaknesses laid out before an interview, just in case they prompt me for more, or I need to use more of those strengths in another answer possibly. And you want to pick strengths that are related to the job to which you're applying. So tip number 1, always have more strengths plus an example, and weaknesses plus your solution ready in case you need them. So I call those your back pocket strengths and weaknesses to pull out just in case. Tip 2, never use any weaknesses that can be debilitating for that particular job. So just an example of that would be if you're interviewing for a teaching position and one of your weaknesses is that you're not good at classroom management, don't bring that up in the interview, because that will be seen as debilitating. You get to be in control of this. You get to choose which weaknesses and which strengths you're going to talk about. So you need to put some thought into it before you go into an interview. So again, using strengths that are relevant to the job are going to be best. And if you have a job description, that's gonna be your guide. So you can look at that job description and see what kinds of strengths they're looking for in a person, and then decide which ones of those that you have, and then those are going to be the ones you talk about. In terms of the examples that you give with each strength of you demonstrating that, it's important to try to give examples that are work related, not from your personal life. It could be work related, could be volunteer work, could be an internship, but really try to think of an example that comes from one of those things rather than your personal life.